We've got a lot to cover. We just talked about all the 10P's, so anyway, let's see if this will.
For 37 people who are madly in love into a functional MRI brain scanner. 17 who are happily in love, 15 who have just been dumped, and we're just starting our third experiment, studying people who report that they're still in love after 10 to 25 years of marriage. So this is the short story of that research. In the jungles of Guatemala, in Tikal, stands a temple. It was built by the grandest sun king of the grandest city-state, of the grandest civilization of the Americas, the Mayas. His name was Kazakantawi. He stood over 6 feet tall. He lived into his 80s, and he was buried beneath this monument in 720 AD. And Mayan inscriptions proclaim that he was deeply in love with his wife, so he built a temple in her honor, facing his. And every spring and autumn, exactly at the equinox, the sun rises behind his temple and perfectly bathes her temple with his shadow. And as the sun sets behind her temple in the afternoon, it perfectly bathes his temple with her shadow. After 1,300 years, these two lovers still touch and kiss from their tomb. Around the world, people love. They sing for love. They dance for love. They compose poems and stories about love. They tell myths and legends about love. They pine for love. They live for love. They kill for love. And they die for love. As Walt Whitman once said, he said, "Oh, I would stake all for you." Anthropologists have found evidence of romantic love in 170 societies. They've never found a society that did not have it. But love isn't always a happy experience. In one study of college students, they asked a lot of questions about love, but the two that stood out to me the most were, have you ever been rejected by somebody who you really love? And the second question was, have you ever dumped somebody who really loved you? And almost 95% of those men and women said yes to both. Almost nobody gets out of love alive. So before I start telling you about the brain, I want to read for you what I think is the most powerful love poem on earth. There's other love poems that are, of course, just as good, but I don't think this one can be surpassed. It was told by an anonymous Plateau Indian of southern Alaska to a missionary in 1896. Here it is. I've never had the opportunity to say it before. Fire runs through my body with the pain of loving you. Pain runs through my body with the fires of my love for you. Pain like a boil about to burst with my love for you. Consumed by fire is my love for you. I remember what you said to me. I am thinking of your love for me. I am torn by your love for me. Pain and more pain. Where are you going with my love? I'm told you will go from here. I'm told you will leave me here. My body is numb with grief. Remember what I said, my love. Goodbye, my love, goodbye. Emily Dickinson once wrote, fighting is all we need to know of hell. How many people have suffered in all the millions of years of human evolution? How many people around the world are dancing with elation at this very minute? Romantic love is one of the most powerful sensations on earth. So several years ago, I decided to look into the brain and study this madness. Our first study of people who are happily loved has been widely publicized, so I'm only going to say very little about it. We found activity in a tiny little factory near the base of the brain called the ventral tegmental area. We found activity in some cells called the A10 cells, cells that actually make dopamine, a natural stimulant, and spray it to many brain regions. Indeed, this part, the VTA, is part of the brain's reward system. It's way below your cognitive thinking process. It's below your emotions. It's part of what we call the reptilian core of the brain, associated with wanting, with motivation, with focus, and with craving. In fact, the same brain region where we found activity becomes active also when you feel the rush of cocaine. But romantic love is much more than a cocaine high. At least you come down from cocaine. Romantic love is an obsession. It possesses you. You lose your sense of self. You can't stop thinking about another human being. Somebody's camping in your head. As an 8th century Japanese poet said, my longing had no time when it ceases. Wild is love. And the exception can get worse when you've been rejected. So right now, Lucy Brown and I, the neuroscientist on our project, are looking at the data of the people who were put into the machine after they had just been dumped. Well, it was very difficult actually putting these people in the machine because they were in such bad shape. So anyway, we found activity in 3 brain regions. We found activity in the brain region, in exactly the same brain region associated with intense romantic love. What a bad deal. You know, when you've been dumped, the one thing you love to do is just forget about this human being and then go on with your life. But no, you just love them harder. As the poet Terence, the Roman poet, once said, he said, the less my hope, the harder my love. And indeed, we now know why. 2,000 years later, we can explain this in the brain. That brain system, the reward system for wanting, for motivation, for craving, for focus becomes more active when you can't get what you want. In this case, life's greatest prize, an appropriate mating partner. We found activity in other brain regions also. In the brain region associated with calculating gains and losses. You know, you're lying there, you're looking at the picture, you're in this machine, you're calculating, you know, what went wrong, what have I lost? As a matter of fact, Lucy and I have a little joke about this. It comes from a David Mamet play, and there's 2 con artists in the play, and the woman is conning the man, and the man looks at the woman and says, oh, you're a bad pony. I'm not going to bet on you. And indeed, it's this brain, part of the brain, the core of the nucleus accumbens active, is becoming active as you're measuring your gains and losses. It's also the brain region that becomes active when you're willing to take enormous risks for huge gains and huge losses. Last but not least, we found activity in the brain region associated with deep attachment to another individual. No wonder people suffer around the world, and we have so many crimes of passion. When you've been rejected in love, not only are you engulfed with feelings of romantic love, but you're feeling deep attachment to this individual. Moreover, this brain circuit for reward is working, and you're feeling intense energy, intense focus, intense motivation, and a willingness to risk it all to win life's greatest prize. So what have I learned from this experiment that I would like to tell the world? Foremost, I've come to think that romantic love is a drive, a basic mating drive. Not the sex drive. The sex drive gets you out to live for whole range of partners. Romantic love enables you to focus your mating energy on just one at a time, conserve your mating energy, and start the mating process with a single individual. I think of all the poetry that I've read about romantic love, what sums it up best is something that is said by Plato over 2,000 years ago. He said, the God of love lives in a state of need. It is a need. It is an urge. It is a homeostatic imbalance. Like hunger and thirst, it's almost impossible to stamp out. I've also come to believe that romantic love is an addiction. A perfectly wonderful addiction when it's going well, and a perfectly horrible addiction when it's going poorly. And indeed, it has all of the characteristics of an addiction. You focus on the person, you obsessively think about them, you crave them, you distort reality, your willingness to take enormous risks to win this person. And it's got the 3 main characteristics of addiction. Tolerance, you need to see more and more and more. Withdrawals, and last but not relapse. I've got a girlfriend who's just getting over a terrible love affair. It's been about 8 months. She's beginning to feel better. And she was driving along in her car the other day, and suddenly she heard a song on the car radio that reminded her of this man. And she, not only did the instant craving come back, but she had to pull over the road, from the side of the road, and cry. So one thing I would like the medical community and the legal community and even the college community to see if they can understand that indeed romantic love is one of the most addictive substances on earth. I would also like to tell the world that animals love. There's not an animal on this planet that'll copulate with anything that comes along. Too old, too young, too scruffy, too stupid, and they won't do it. Unless you're stuck in a laboratory cage, and if you spend your entire life in a little box. You're not going to be as picky about who you have sex with. Animals have favorites. As a matter of fact, ethologists know this. There's over eight words for what they call animal favoritism, selective proceptivity, mate choice, female choice, sexual choice. And indeed, there are now 3 academic articles in which they've looked at this attraction, which may only last for a second, but it's a definite attraction, and it's either the same brain regions, reward system, or the chemicals of that reward system are involved. In fact, I think animal attraction can be instant. You can see an elephant instantly go for another elephant, and I think that this is really the origins of what you and I call love at first sight. People have often asked me whether what I know about love has spoiled it for me. I would simply say hardly. You can know every single ingredient in a piece of chocolate cake, and when you sit down and eat that cake, you can still feel that joy. And certainly I make all the same mistakes everybody else does too. But it's really deepened my understanding and compassion really for all human life. As a matter of fact, in New York, I often catch myself eating a baby carrot and feeling a little sorry for the top. In fact, sometimes I feel a little sorry for the chicken on my dinner plate when I think of how intense this brain system is. Our newest experiment is been hatched by my colleague Art Aaron, putting people who are reporting that they are still in love in a long-term relationship into the functional MRI. We put 5 people in so far, and indeed we found exactly the same thing. They're not lying. They basically, the brain areas associated with intense romantic love still become active 25 years later. There are still many questions to be answered and asked about romantic love. The question that I'm working on right this minute, and I'm only going to say it for a second and then end, is why do you fall in love with one person rather than another? The reason I never would have even thought to think of this, but Match.com, the internet dating site, came to me 3 years ago and asked me that question. And I said, I don't know. I know what happens in the brain when you do become in love, but I don't know why you fall in love with one person rather than another. And so I've spent the last 3 years on this. And there's many reasons if you fall in love with one person rather than another that psychologists can tell you. And we tend to fall in love with somebody from the same socioeconomic background, the same general level of intelligence, the same general level of good looks, the same religious values. Your childhood certainly plays a role, but nobody knows how. And that's about it. That's all they know. No, they've never found the way 2 personalities fit together to make a good relationship. So it began to occur to me that maybe your biology pulls you towards some people rather than another. And I have concocted a questionnaire to see to what degree you express dopamine, serotonin, estrogen, and testosterone. I think we've evolved 4 very broad personality types associated with the ratios of these 4 chemicals in the brain. And on this dating site that I've created called chemistry.com, I ask you first a series of questions to see to what degree you express these chemicals, and I'm watching who chooses who to love. And 3.7 million people have taken the questionnaire in America. About 600,000 people have taken it in 33 other countries. I'm putting the data together now, and at some point, there will always be magic to love, but I think I will come closer to understanding why it is you can walk into a room and everybody is from your background, your same general level of intelligence, your same general level of good looks, and you don't feel pulled towards all of them. I think there's biology to that. I think we're going to end up in the next few years to understand all kinds of brain mechanisms that pull us to one person rather than another. So I will close with this. Oh, these are my older people. Faulkner once said, "The past is not dead. It's not even the past." Indeed, we carry a lot of luggage from our yesteryear in the human brain. And so there's one thing that makes me pursue my understanding of human nature. And this reminds me of it. These are 2 women. Women tend to get intimacy differently than men do. Women get intimacy from face-to-face talking. We swivel towards each other. We do what we call the anchoring gaze, and we talk. This is intimacy to women. I think it comes from millions of years of holding that baby in front of your face, cajoling it, reprimanding it, educating it with words. Men tend to get intimacy from side by side. As soon as one guy looks up, and the other guy will look away. I think it comes from millions of years of standing behind that bush, sitting behind the bush, looking straight ahead, trying to hit that buffalo in the head with a rock. I think for millions of years, men faced their enemies. They sat side by side with friends. So my final statement is, love is in us. It's deeply embedded in the brain. Our challenge is to understand each other. Thank you.
All right. Helen Fisher. And she's got some great books. I know that because I'm watching all relationship videos and reading relationship books. Need help? Want any recommendations on relationship books? So anyway. Gary Chapman. All right, so the 10 P's, what are they? Promises, philosophies, psychologies, proficiencies, purpose, plan, process, practice, pact, partnership. So promises. And this did...
I know, right? We almost did. Can you go back just so we can at least see the breakdown on the side, the foundation, those levels?
You have to take a picture of your slide.
Oh, that's right. Yes, my slide.
Beautiful slide.
Oh, shoot.
Girl's got slide.
She's got slide. Do you guys want us to send you all the slides afterwards?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do that. All those pictures. Why didn't you say so in the first place, girlfriend? All right. So the first P is promise. And this is the work that came out of the marriage workshop that I attended. And I just thought that this was really so profound. And I've gone to a few friends' weddings, and I've said this exact thing at their weddings as part, they've asked me to speak. So why be married? And these are the 10 P's that may be your framework to help answer the question, or why not be married? But the idea of promises, and it's almost once we get married is the reminder. But what do we do at a wedding? Besides, what do we do before we celebrate? We make vows. So the whole ceremony is really organized around the vows, is it not? Now, what are vows? Promises. Now, how many at a wedding are making vows and they're written on a piece of paper, they're scripted, or they're just repeated, but they're not really vows? Meaning they're not really promises. Who remembers their wedding vows? Mm-hmm. So if we can't remember them, we're probably not in the practice of them, which means either the promises changed or we didn't really mean them in the first place. So the typical vows, and we write other vows, but more or less what they boil down to is, I vow, I promise to love, honor, and cherish. Right? Promise to love, honor, and to cherish. And we say those words. Do we know what the words mean? So when I say, hey, Margaret, I love you, and I vow to love you for the rest of my life, what does that mean? When we say, what is the vow?
We got a distinction at that marriage workshop, which was that love means to accept that person just as they are and just as they aren't.
Yes. So it's I love you the way you are, and I love you the way you're not. And what happens when we get married? Especially we women, what do we want to do to our men? Change them. Change them right away. Once the ink's not even dry yet. And we're like, I want to change you. So that's when we say the word unconditional love, I mean, love comes with conditions. There's always conditions. And it's the unconditionally be who you are. But the conditions are, usually cheating's not, I mean, that is a condition for most, not all marriages, but some. But the idea is like the unconditional love piece is organized around I love you the way you are and I love you the way you're not. I fell in love with you for who you are. That if I love you for who you are, why would I want to change you? And why be married and have that level of commitment if I don't love you the way you are, which means it's, there's always the opposite. But we do that. We're like, oh, I love you for the way you are, but I don't love you for the way you're not. So to love means both those are at the same time. There's the other, what's called the reciprocal vows. So I can say, Paul, I love you, I honor you, I cherish you, but there's the idea that you're going to love me back, right? You said back to me, I love you, honor, and cherish you, as vows, bless you. But what if I'm not very lovable, honorable, or cherishable?
That's right.
So how many times are we in relationships where, we've made the vows, like our significant others made the vow to love, honor, and cherish, but we're making it really damn difficult for them to keep that promise.
Yeah.
So it's the obligations on both sides. If we want to feel loved and honored and cherished, we need to be lovable, honorable, and cherished to make it really damn easy for the other one to do that. Now, what if we're complaining all the time? Not making it easy. We're not lovable if we're complaining. And what if we're criticizing all the time? We're not making ourselves very lovable. What if we're keeping secrets or something of that nature? Are we really honorable?
Masking behavior.
Masking behavior, absolutely. So we have to, the onus is on us first, that it's actually not I love, honor, and cherish, in my opinion. The first vow is I will be lovable, honorable, and cherishable. I will be lovable. My promise to you, Tom, is I will be lovable, honorable, and cherishable. And please love me for who I am and for who I'm not. But I'm going to make it really easy for you. What if we went into marriage that way? So I promise to love you. I promise to love you the way you are and the way you're not. And another part of love is like what comes naturally out of that is how many circles are you in where people are married or in a relationship and they're bitching about their spouse the entire time? Or they're saying negative things about their partner. It happens a lot, doesn't it? Like these little complaints. I've been in a lot of boardrooms with a lot of men and there's lots of complaints or just negative comments around the wives. And I've been with a lot of girlfriends and they're bitching about their significant others. Like, so that's public. So publicly, we're saying shit about who we're supposed to love. We made a vow to love that person, to honor them and cherish them, but to love them, but we're talking trash about them. We just broke our vows. So is there a marriage if there are no vows? And how likely is the marriage to succeed if we're breaking the vows on a daily basis because we forgot them in the first place or we didn't know what they mean when we said them? So going in is I invent my next relationship. If I'm going into this, it's like, oh, it's me first, lovable, honorable, and cherishable Christina. And who am I? And what makes me unlovable? But lovable, honorable, and cherishable, then love, honor, and cherish. And then our job is, these are words, and these are nouns. What do we want to, we want to be lovable, but what do we need to do? We need to say, I vow to loving you. I vow to honoring you. I vow to so there is no vow without action, it's just words. So it's not love, honor, and cherish. It's I vow to be in loving of you, to be in the honoring of you, and to be in the cherishing of you, which means I would never talk trash about you publicly because that would not be the act of honoring and certainly not the act of cherishing. But love is action. And the problem, like being married for a long time, is we forget its action and then it becomes taken for granted and we're not in the act of love. We may be in the words of love because you get used to seeing them as hi honey, I love you. But the feelings aren't there. And if the feelings aren't there, can we act in love if we're not actually really feeling it?
I think it can go back and forth. I've been married 29 years, and I can honestly say we've been, to hell and back.
Uh-huh.
We've been in places where we did not like each other at all. But we've come back, and, I'm giddy to see them.
But my guess would be that right. But my guess is when you're in the hell spots, you guys weren't loving, honoring, and cherishing.
Right, we were.
Right. So this, yeah. There's no argument that you couldn't get through it. But why? Like, wouldn't we like to avoid those hell spots if we could? Yeah.
Because it was an ugly.
It's an ugly place. And congrats for making it back, assuming you're in a happy marriage. But it's the loving, the honoring, and the cherishing.
And Christina, what you're offering is very powerful because it's the practical application of what does it mean to honor, hold someone in high regard. Just as you say, it's every opportunity that you have to speak their virtues, in front of others and all that kind of thing. And I love what you're saying about, I'll take responsibility. It starts first with me. How do I be lovable, honorable, and cherishable? What does that look from a practical standpoint? Not chocolates or roses or love letters. He's so funny.
Tom?
So when I stepped, when my divorce, when my marriage ended, I went on this quest and I started trying to find people that I felt were happily married people to ask them, what's the deal, what's going on here? And so Althea, who we both know, had the best answer, and they'd been married 50-some years at the time, and it was, as long as we both didn't fall out of love at the same time,
Yeah.
one held the ground while the other one came back. And she said, I was out of love at certain points, Bob was out of love, but one of us was holding the ground while the other one came back. And that was the best answer I came across on that quest.
That is.
Put that on, write that down.
And put my name attached to it. Yeah. Tom Amos.
Well, that's why they call it a dance.
Right.
Yep.
Christina, we were at this wedding recently, and the priest asked the couple that had been married the longest to stand up, and it was this older couple, and they had been married 65 years, and he said, wow, what's the secret? And the little old guy stood up and he said, well, we had a pact at the very beginning of our marriage, and that is that I would make all the big decisions, and she would make all the small decisions day to day. And so far, there haven't been any big decisions.
Still waiting for that one. I know I'm still waiting.
But, so I hear that, and that the one thing that I see that's kind of like, it's the humor.
Yes.
If you're not friggin' that whole fishbowl
Yeah.
happened, we were laughing hysterically the whole fuck thing.
Yeah.
It is funny.
Yeah.
If you don't have humor in that, and can laugh at yourself and laugh at them.
So true.
Lack of it in our marriage. We call it the Tony and Nancy show.
All right. So what does to honor mean?
Respect.
Honor, respect, hold in high regard. But, I mean, that same thing is with the words, if we're acting to the words, like what we're talking about, speak someone's virtues when we're out in public. That's how we'd honor someone. And public honoring is really important. I mean, it's, speaking others' virtues, but we speak virtues of others all the time, and we forget to speak the virtues of our spouse. And then to cherish. What does to cherish mean?
To hold the other person's concerns, what they care about, as though they were your own, even if you don't give a fuck about them.
Yep. do you give a fuck about her
Another
shoes?
thank God
Yes.
moment for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. But yeah, to cherish means I love you the way you are, I love you the way you're not. To honor means I hold you in such high regard. I just honor you. I respect you. I honor you. I can't help but say positive things about you. I'm just so lucky to be married to you. I feel that. I mean, I honor you, and I'm so lucky. And then I cherish you means what you care about, I care about. I protect you. I care about protecting you. We've got this. And men are not protected by nature, but women are protectors too. We protect our children. We are great protectors. But it's I cherish you. I care about what you care about. I want to protect you from harm and hurt if I can. So the second P is philosophies. And these I'm going to go through pretty quickly. The idea is that when we take a break, we're going to break up actually in some men's circles again and women's circles after we get through these. And I'd like actually each of the groups to talk about the framework and answer some of these questions. But philosophy is basically is so important. Before we get married, we really don't talk about what do we believe and where did those beliefs come from. Again, if we don't talk about these or look at these, we just bring the baggage to the table and expect our spouse to deal with it. Bring who we are. So the philosophies is, what are our philosophies or beliefs around money? Do those beliefs or philosophies serve me and serve us? What are the beliefs and philosophies around health? And what are beliefs and philosophies? Philosophies are beliefs, basically, about marriage, about our marriage. What do I believe about our marriage right now? Do I believe it's going to last? Because behaviors always follow beliefs. Behaviors follow beliefs, and so the actions that we're in are going to follow the beliefs we're in. So where there's some conflict, it might be a great place to, what beliefs are we holding on to? And the thing about beliefs is just so funny as adults, and it's almost like it's so hard to break them, isn't it? Like once you believe something to be true, like the idea of ever questioning that belief, to think maybe you're wrong, or that we can't alter that, like we get stuck in these beliefs, and then we get stuck in the I'm right. There is no relationship and an I'm right at the same time. We have to be willing to be wrong. We have to be willing that maybe there isn't a right. Maybe there's just a deepening of our relationship by exploring whatever's on the table at the moment. And there is no right. And I think that's when I read the language book again, is that there was so much in there, that the dialoguing is the deepening of the relationship, and there's a struggle, there's a conflict, there's something on the table, that if the idea is that we want to break through that for the sake of deepening and expanding and growing the relationship, to growing the love by virtue of getting through this. But not that you're wrong. I'm going to just tolerate you and listen to you do this, but I'm not going to change my belief about it. That's where we just, stalemate. You can't go anywhere. Amy Beth?
We've been married 24 or something like that years, I forget now, but I think of those conflict times as like you're healing an energetic vibration that has been laid down for, we don't even know how many lifetimes, but that you're trying to raise it up. And it's like you have to have that conflict to be able to dig it out and then bring it up and then heal it.
That's perfect. I love that, visual. Absolutely.
But it takes that sacred construct to do that.
It does. Then I agree. You have to feel safe. It's the safety to do that. That we can fight this out. One, because we're both committed to love. Not because it's in a contract. I do think there's something to the contract, but that's my opinion, and we'll leave that aside because this is group work. But coming just out of a divorce, still believing that. But the idea just that if we can just work with the idea that nobody's right or wrong. The reason why we want to break through this conflict, both of us do, is not for the relationship. It's for love. To feel love and to love the other person, that's in the way right now. So we want to break it apart because I want to get back to love. I don't care if I'm right. I don't care if I'm wrong. I just want to resolve this conflict because I want to get back to feeling love. Because how good does it feel, that love and devotion, JP? It's pretty awesome, isn't it? And that stuff gets in the way. So it's just like, let's handle it. But let's not argue over it and try to convince the other one that they're wrong. We're breaking it down, and when we break down, the relationship gets deeper.
Well, you gotta shine the light in all the dark crevices. You know, you have to go into in order to do that.
But if let's say the marriage or the relationship is safe, that's the idea of keeping it safe, that we can work through the struggle, you and I, but we're not going anywhere. And I love you for who you are, and I love you for who you're not, and I love, honor, and cherish you, and I trust that we're going to work this out.
But
I trust we're
Christina,
going
to me, that's devotion, what you're saying,
Okay.
and that's what I'm learning right now. I'm a student of devotion, not a master of it. But what you're saying and what you're saying, Amy, because I'm inspired that I've been married, and the way you're saying it inspires me, actually.
Yeah.
But that is all levels of devotion. That's like saying, I hate you right now, everything you're saying I disagree with, but for a greater good, I'm willing to put my shit aside.
Yes.
Because it's not only for love, it's also how can I spiritually grow from this experience? I completely disagree with you right now, 120%. But I'm willing to go beyond that because I think there's something I can learn, and not just to experience, not just to get back to the trigger, feeling love, the instantaneous thing. It's like if you're my ascension buddy, well then I have to be all in, whether
Yep.
I like it or not.
Yep.
To ascend.
Yep.
And that's I think where the devotion comes in, because there's moments we're just not going to agree. We may not agree for a long period of time.
Right.
But it's that commitment that gets you through the part where you're so philosophically on different ends of the
Yeah,
spectrum.
perfectly said.
And you may never totally agree either.
And you may not, and
okay.
that's okay. Exactly. So the work on here, and it's to look at what, and to look at what philosophies we have as a couple too. So there's minimalism and consumerism. Those two philosophies don't match up very well. So what's the philosophy, like sort of these real philosophies, these name philosophies that we use as a framework or foundation for our marriage? A lot of times it's faith, it's religious faith, that's really a big part of the philosophy, the Christian faith. And that's really, the value system. But what philosophies do we really use as our foundation? So the exercise, write this down at your break, is what do you believe? This is what you'd say to your partner. If you don't have a partner, what do I believe about money, health, and relationships? And what philosophies are the guide? It's like, what do you believe? And then go one step deeper. Why do you believe it? That question why is really important. Next one's psychologies.
So those two questions were for,
The circles.
When we break up.
well, okay, what do I believe in, what promises?
What's that? Nothing. All right, so the next one, so the third piece, psychologies, we're going to go a little bit faster now. So psychologies is really mood, and mood matters. And what mood is an energy? Mood is an energy. So what mood are we in most of the time? Like we talked about, just the energy, like the love energy, the mood that I want to just constantly bring to Hickory. But what mood are we in? Because we really travel in moods. If we're in complaining, it's a mood. Bitching's a mood. Criticizing's a mood. Being tired's a mood. Busyness is a mood. And then we have language that follows it, like I'm so busy, it means I don't have time for you. So what moods are we bringing to the marriage? And this is about, or the relationship, or what moods would produce better relationships? But this is all about the I. This isn't like, oh, Margaret, you just bring a bad mood all the time. That's the problem with our marriage. It's like, no, what mood do I bring? What mood do I travel in? Is it a mood with a lot of humor where we can, there's a mood where we can poke fun at each other and get through things and just break it down, when things get heated and someone makes a joke and it's perfectly fine. But we talk so much about mindset, mindset this, mindset that, but nobody talks about mood set. We're a mood set because there's low energy moods, that's like skepticism and cynicism and bitchism and complainingism and all these these low moods. And then there's what are great moods to bring to a relationship? Give me some great moods. Excitement. Love. Spontaneity. Joy. Gratefulness. How many times we just said, I'm just so grateful for you. And Kirk was telling me a story. Why don't you tell the story, Kirk, about your professor that was talking about the successful relationships? The ones that the successful relationships where each one appreciated the other.
Yeah, so I won't go to preambles and cut to the chase. They did. His name tag. From one of my favorite philosophers, Homer Simpson. No, I'll stand right here. So it was a social psych class, which I dreaded taking. I thought it was just too, whatever. I won't skip. Anyway, he had done a lot of weird research. I mean, social psych does some really strange research, and what they interviewed a lot, like she was saying, interviewed a ton of couples, and they put them in the room together. They saw how they interacted. They talked to them separately. They did all this research, and they tried to figure out like what was the most important thing to keep a couple together and passionate, not just together, but like really, really excited about the relationship. And it was that both people have to think, I'm so lucky to have her, and I'm so lucky to have him. And as long as you feel fortunate to have that other person in your life, and you both feel that way, the relationship always works. That was the most powerful predictor he came up with.
That's so cool.
And then how much more that the other person hears it all the time. So we have this habit of thinking it to ourselves and kind of feeling it. But don't we like to hear, like, baby, I'm so grateful for you. Like, you make my world better. My gosh, we've been together for 25 years, and I just still pinch myself that you chose me. So the next question to write down is, how does your honey make you feel most often? And how do you want your significant other to feel? And are those feelings happening most of the time? Fourth one's proficiencies. And proficiency is really about learning. Again, couples don't learn together. I mean, JP and Janet, I love seeing you guys here together, learning together. Paul and Margaret, Tony and Nancy, Robin and Dan, Michelle and Keith. I mean, you're so exceptional to be learning together, seeking knowledge, growing, ascending, because I think that's what, it's funny, I was just having this conversation, and John said it yesterday, but it's just all this personal self-growth, and we're just growing on our own, and we're growing away versus growing together. And we're growing away. So personal growth isn't enough. It's the together growth. And how do we together growth? By living together 24/7 if we're not doing something to actually grow together, other than just time. So proficiency is about growth. It's about learning. It's about knowledge. It's about expanding points of view. Esther Perel, who I really love listening to, says that, what happens over time is we start to look at us as our partners, extensions of ourselves, and we forget they're actually a different person. So we quit being curious. We quit being in wonder about the other. So then it's just, I'm used to you, and you're convenient. So the idea is how do we, what are these mechanisms or things to keep us out of the trap that's naturally going to happen with time? And I'm thinking it's the desire to grow together. I know that's where Gary and I started going different ways. Like, we weren't growing together. He was off doing his thing, doing mine. We come together for business. It was these different things. But we weren't growing together. I mean, I was just growing completely away from the relationship. And at the end of the day, I mean, an amazing man, a good man. But I didn't have anything in common anymore. Why? Because I was on a personal growth journey. Growing so fucking fast because I'm just a seeker of knowledge and expansion and personal growth and professional growth. And I do it at such a velocity. But I did it without him. And all of a sudden, we just had nothing in common, really, except a certificate and some businesses. And we're good at making money together. But I can speak to what John was saying yesterday, is if just one or even both are growing, but growing in separate places, we're just going to outgrow each other. So let's grow together. I love the ascension. I love the ascension partner. Let's grow together. Let's learn together. Let's be here together. You know, Amy, Beth, and Alan being here, and 3 kids and busy lives, and he's an ER doctor, and he's trying to pull away because she says, honey, I really want you here with me. And he made it happen, even though it's really hard for him to get away from the ER. But that's love and devotion. That's like, I'll be there with you. LaShawn and Robert were talking last night, and LaShawn and I we were introduced through another woman we both know, and the other woman was saying, oh, you need to go to Christina's event, and here's why. And so why don't you tell this story?
Yeah, I was on the phone with my brand manager, Monica, and we're working on changing a brand to a family brand to incorporate our kids. And my husband, and she was like, you really need to know Christina. And I was like, who's Christina? And while we're talking, I'm Googling you. And I was like, cool, if you think I should go, then, work it out. And she was like, okay, I'll contact you guys. And I called my husband, and I was like, look, I have this event in Austin. What is your calendar like? And I want us to go. And he was like, okay, who is she? And I told him, and he did his own research. And, he sent me a text back and was just like, okay, book it, let's go.
And what the question I asked Robert last night is that LaShawn was saying, hey, I want to do this. And what did you say?
For me, it is I want us to continue to grow together. So when I saw an opportunity to do this, I know she's going to do her due diligence. I'm going to do mine. So if we have the opportunity to grow together, I'm on board. So it's whole complete.
So why is it? What is it with us as couples that we stop doing that? Or why is it that's uncommon?
Look at it as growing together, though.
Okay.
I don't. I agree, it's hard to get couples to show up together, but.
And I think it's mindset too, right? It goes back to what you said. We're always in quest of that next thing to attach to so that we can continue to grow, and we want to do that together. But if you have one spouse who's just like, hey, I'm good where I am, I don't need any more info, then, that person will stay stuck. But we're in agreement that we want to continue to grow.
Right. And grow together. And how long? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and what you kind of triggered for me, which is really beautiful, is that you saying yes, you cherished her.
Absolutely.
Right? Even if Paul does that a lot, there are things he doesn't care one bit about. But I say it's important to me that you come, and so he does, and he does it with a good attitude.
Mm-hmm.
But you're also
Karen. Karen?
I've inadvertently created some of that, starting out thinking, well, this is my thing. I'm just intrinsically driven to do this. He's intrinsically driven to study engineering, and I'm not going to make him, and not realizing, oh, well, I don't have to make him, but I can offer it. I can tell him it's important to me. Would you come? Would you check it out, try it out?
Yeah, well, and that's the vow of cherish. So cherishing, when we're in the vows and we come together, like knowing what the words mean, and then making the vows if we can vow to those words. But that's where the cherish is that, if my partner says, hey, I want to go to the F1 because I love races. I'm like, I could give a flip about race cars. They're really loud. I was at one F1 and, I was like, I had like, yeah. But it is torture. Those things are loud. I'm like, what is the thrill with this? No. But then the cherish is like, no, I will go with you with a great mood about it. If that's what you love, I'm in.
Yeah, I think a little part of me is like, if he comes to my stuff, does that mean I have to go listen to engineering?
You do, yep. But if he wants you to go, like, so a lot of the other being cherishable would be like, Karen would hate this.
Yeah, no.
And so, and there'd be no reason. We're not going to grow together by this engineering conference. She would hate it. I'd like her to be there, but you know what? I'm not even going to ask. So that's where it goes both ways. You know, when both partners are in that.
But I think it's also in sowing seeds, right, of what you want to see. And I didn't realize this until listening just now. But I remember last July he was getting an award in Las Vegas, and I was just coming out of travel. And he didn't know this, but, you know, I called somebody and was like, hey, give me the information. Let me try to book my ticket to come back through Vegas so I can be in the audience. I wanted to be the one screaming his name when he got on stage, right? And he didn't know it, and I surprised him in doing it. But in doing that, I sowed a seed for him being here. If it was
right.
So, you know, and I didn't think about it in that way until now. But I think it's important that you sow seeds so you can get back, right? You know, what you want.
Yeah, give what you want. That's awesome. All right, so the question is what do we know? What do we don't know? And what do we want to get to know together? And this can all be done individually too. So it's not just couples. But learn, grow, know. And even as an individual, as a single, it could be like, what do I think I know about relationships? What do I think I know about love? What do I don't know about relationships? What do I don't know about love? And all these are just really is an opportunity to create more self-awareness. All right, purpose. Purpose is really the fulcrum. And really the thing on purpose, if you're married, the question would be, are we on purpose? Which assumes we have a purpose. So what is the purpose of our marriage? Why be married to each other still? What's the purpose? Why stay married? So why stay married? What is the purpose? What is the bigger purpose? If we're ascending to what? What is that purpose we're ascending towards? We're going towards that summit together. What is the purpose? Are we on purpose?
So what?
And with purpose comes passion. So the mood of passion is a really powerful mood. When we move in passion, the world can change with passion. Groups of people, that's kind of where under an element of passion can be motivation, for example. So Tony Robbins' conference, how much energy is in there? A lot, Steve? So there's just so much energy with all the excitement and positive attitudes, and that's that motivation piece. But do we lose our motivation to being married many times over time? So passion's this mood, and passion, the mood comes from that comes from inside out, is really attached to. It's really hard to be passionate if you don't have a future story, a good future story you're moving towards. Which means you have to have a future story you're moving towards. Because that's why entrepreneurs are so passionate by nature, because they've got this big dream, and every day is about getting closer to that dream. That dream what's our dream in our marriage? What is that big purpose? What we're going towards, the summit. That gives meaning to our marriage, what gives meaning to why we've chosen each other to be together. That creates that mood, we're in this together, we're both excited to be in this journey moving towards something we've declared is meaningful and valuable and real and exciting. And we'll get to that summit, and then there'll be the next one. But the question is your marriage passionate still? Is there still passion? If you're single, look at other relationships and think, where did the passion die? Any idea what kind of causes marriages to lose passion? I know this was a lot of the reasons why mine lost passion. Complacency, absolutely. Huge one. What's that? Kids, yes, those damn kids. Yeah. They're such, they're passion busters, man,
I mean, in our case, I'll say like, the whole fatigue and.
The fatigue.
Fatigue.
Yeah, fatigue. Yeah, Paul? Overspending.
Not just money, but
That-
overspending the equity you have in your relationship.
That's so good. Perfect.
Lack of communication skills.
Lack of communication, absolutely. Good skills, I mean the skill of. Yeah, David?
Lack of clarity or loss of clarity?
Absolutely. No clarity means you don't know what you're going towards, which means like where's the motivation? So how many when we're together for a long time, how much of the marriage turns into projects, checklists, honey-do lists? Is there any passion attached to a honey-do list? I mean, like really? I mean, honey, the list. Still, do you see these here? Yeah, there you go. And we kind of sense we get in this fatigue in this business. We think if we get through these projects, and these kids are a project, that once we get beyond that, then we'll have time to be passionate again. But there's always the next project. But if the marriage is organized around projects and task lists, there's going to be no passion because there's no passion attached to a checklist. Doesn't mean it's absent of checklists, but it's not about the checklist and the project. Again, my marriage failed because it was just a business project.
How many fall apart after the house is finished?
How many fall apart after the house is finished, after the project is finished? Absolutely. How many fall apart after the kids are finished?
Yeah, maybe a lack of vision for the relationship.
A lack of vision that's more than the children. I mean, a vision that's more than the children, a vision that's more than the next project, a vision, a purpose that has real meaning, that's just awesome, that we can't get to alone, and we probably couldn't get there with someone that's not committed.
Lack of play.
The one that's not making a certain commitment that says, no, I'm in this with you and going to the top. Can it be done without marriage? I don't know. But I think marriage is a certain type of commitment that says, no, we're going here together. Committedly, promised. So projects are not the ends. The projects aren't the end. The purpose the end. Projects are just a means to get to the end. So on this, the slide is, what do we give a fuck about? What do we value? Do we value projects? Do we value the kids over our marriage?
Or value yourself and your own interests over.
Yeah, do I value myself? Yeah. I'm trying to think what book it was in. Oh, it was in the fuck book, actually. And in the fuck book, surprise, surprise, right? Yeah, I should be getting like royalties or something by, he's gonna have to start paying me here shortly. But
Just bought it.
exactly.
I would too.
Yeah, but he was saying that oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought about not giving a fuck. I'll get it. Hold on.
She was talking about self-interest.
Oh yeah, so he's talking about, so one thing he talks about is trust. And he uses marriage as an example. So he said, things are mutually exclusive. So if you say, hey, what I give a fuck about is my marriage, and that's what it's one of my top give a fucks, then what that means is you're not out having orgies, more than likely, because that's opposite of what you give a fuck about, that concern. So he talks. Is that what it was? Only a man would remember that one. But what he says to that is that that for when people cheat, if you cheat, you're basically saying, I give a fuck about myself and the cheating more than the marriage, assuming the relationship, the marriage isn't an open relationship. So he says that in his opinion, that marriage won't work out after the cheat if the person, the cheater, can't at least be honest and say, I cheated because I'm a selfish motherfucker. And I was so selfish with my own feelings and best interest over that of the marriage that I cheated. But it's only admitting that. Can there ever be an opportunity to repair it, which means once it's realizing and then making the choice, I don't want to be that person anymore, that selfish person, because I value the marriage more than I value myself in that way, so it will never happen again. But without at least admitting the true truth of why it happened in the first place versus dodging and all the bullshit and blame that the other person caused to do it, that it will, it's likely not going to work out. But that was a story he told as far as putting myself and my own self-interest above the marriage. All right, so the next P is plan. Once we have a purpose, we need a plan. How are we going to get there together? And the plans, plans come with Sherpa. We need a plan. Who's going to help us with the plan? And here's the thing, it's we need a purpose. And after the purpose is the lifing. We're going to life this together. We're going to be lifing towards the purpose together. Now that we have a purpose, which is a direction, not a destination like we're going to get there. It's like the North Star. We're going here. We've created this vision, this future story together. And now that we have our purpose in language, as a narrative, as a vision, as something we've both declared we want, this part of this together, now it comes about lifing towards that with each other, with these different concerns and values included. And then we're going to have some sort of plan to get there. Plan, meaning some sort of actions. What actions do we need to be in? Meaning lifing, the actions, the planning, the conversations, taking space. Can you plan if you don't have space? Can you plan without taking time to sit down and have a conversation? But how many conversations around planning and purpose are we having? We do it for our businesses. Don't have to twist my arm to have a business plan meeting with my colleagues or my business partners. But boy, if it's in the marriage, then that's I don't have time for that. A lot of us as business, if we'd apply the same time, energy, attention, and all the elements of business to our marriage, we'd probably have pretty damn good marriages. So the planning, it's like, where are we now, and where do we wish to go, and who can help us get us there? The next P is the process, which is the how. So we have a plan, we have a map, and now we need the how. And the big takeaway on this one is the how, the way. So here we are, we've reached this summit together. Now there's a lot of other summits we can go next, and we can now establish our next purpose or where we're going to go from here. But we needed a plan to get here, and we probably needed a lot of help to get here. And we're going to enjoy this view for a while, and now we're going to go to the next one in our lifing journey.
Beautiful slide.
Beautiful slide. But to remember that that's a nice view, right? Don't they look happy that they're up there, they've accomplished this together? But how long does that last?
Till he pushes her.
Exactly. But so they might have just hated each other getting to the top and hated the journey and the process, and then that lasts for 15 minutes. So that's great to be there, but the beauty is in all the travel and the journey and in the jumping over stones and the falling down and getting scrapes and bruises and being tired sometimes, but you're just continuing to go, ascending with your ascension partner. To get there, but that's 15 minutes. It's the process, it's the journey, it's the lifing. This is the magic. But it doesn't happen without conversation. It doesn't have to happen without space. It doesn't happen without time. It doesn't happen without purpose. It doesn't happen without passion. Because it takes passion to get to that thing, because it's a grueling right up. Yeah, David.
Reminds me of, I might have been Kirk who shared it yesterday, but the Tillery guy got to the top, or whoever it was.
Yeah, Jim Lake.
Who died, and right, who's actually getting back down, right? Who's getting there like, oh, cool, what now? And who's actually going, okay, let's go back down, right?
That's a really good point. It's like, now we have to go back down. Right. And if we are terrible to each other on the way up, we are not getting back down. So that's really good. Thank you.
There's a saying in mountain climbing that the summit is only 40% of the way.
Oh,
And
that's good.
Yeah, because there's a lot of other challenges that you have coming back down. You're tired, and then all the dopamine and everything that fired when you were up there. And
Deaths happen on the descent.
yeah, deaths happen on the descent. And what you just brought forth for me is that even though we think of, okay, that's the ascension in a sense is the descent as well. Because it's all part of what you're talking about, the journey.
The process.
Yeah.
And we have to love the process. And so that's another word that I'm really excited about, my next marriage.
What is that?
Husbanding. But it's the love of the process, the love of the marriaging, being in the marriage, keeping it alive, doing whatever it takes to, make it better, get over myself, get over my baggage, dealing with my shit. That stuff comes out when we're in a great relationship. Yes.
Before we got married, Father Bill sat us down and said that, marriage is marrying, continually marrying, and I think that was really easy to forget. That didn't even come back into my mind until sitting here with all the
Marrying, yeah.
continually marrying.
Well,
It's not
yeah.
just this one event.
And Toby said that actually in the marriage workshop. He said, and maybe you guys can remember exactly how he said it, but it was the idea of every day you're choosing to be married today. So when he said something, put the slippers,
Yeah.
do you remember?
Well, he basically wanted us to have a distinction between decision and choice. And that decision comes from, decide. So some people are in a marriage because they've decided to stay married. And decide comes from I, which means to kill, suicide, pesticide, genocide. And so decide means you've killed off all other options. And if you come every morning with the interpretation that I can choose to be here or not, then every day what you were talking about, that I'm trying to be lovable, honorable, and cherishable for the sake of the fact that he can choose to split. And so how do I act every day in a way where he chooses to stay?
You earn it every day. Earn it, yes. Earn it every day instead of overspend. All right, so next P is practices. And I think John said it well. Marriage is a practice, it's not an event. People look at the wedding as the marriage, as the event, and marriage is a practice. We have to be in the practice of it. Like I said, I love John yesterday saying we have to practice it. Part of marrying is practicing being married. And it's what practices do we need to be in to make sure we stay on purpose? And where are we off track? Like what practices or habits are we in that are defeating what we say we care about? The give-a-fucks. And practices are actions. They're actions that we do over and over and over again as a practice. So what practices do you have in your marriage? And then what habits do you have that are not serving the marriage? What bad habits? Not bad, I don't like the words good or bad. But what habits are we in and kind of just stuck in that are hurting the marriage, that are weakening the marriage? And what habits would we be willing to change? Remember, this is the I taking responsibility for what we want, not telling the other person what we want them to do. The next one is pact. We set our vows, which are the promises. The pacts are like the addendum to the vows. But it's a pact. Like, these are our agreements, our rules. You know, it's like where we could call the other one out. Like, hey, baby, you're breaking the rules. We had a rule. But what's our pact? What are these agreements? LaShawn?
Before we got married, we actually had what we call covenants.
Mm-hmm.
And when we work with couples and money, one of the things that we teach on is wealth covenants for couples. And so there were, before we got married, my pastors did 15 weeks of marriage counseling with us before we got married. So every day we had to pick a subject that we wanted to talk to. And they taught us how to communicate. I had to like listen to him. I couldn't defend anything. So whatever subject we picked. And so, and one of them is, well, it's changed over the years as we've increased over the years, but there was a certain dollar amount that I wouldn't spend without consulting him, and he wouldn't spend without consulting me. And so there were certain pacts that we had. You know, we would never argue about money, and in 24 years, we've never had an argument about money. And so we've stuck to those wealth covenants that we created before we got married.
Love that. So what are the pacts with money? What are the pacts with health?
Like we said, we wouldn't spend a certain dollar amount, and then, you know, every January we revisit that dollar amount. You know, I'm not calling you for $200 anymore. Back then we were broke, so I had to call for 50. You know, and so, you know, our limit has changed over the years to 10 to 30,000, and so it's changed over the years. But that was one of them. Another one is we wouldn't argue. You know, we would never argue about money. Another one was the language of money. We would never say that we couldn't afford or we didn't have. So when we first started and we didn't have, I would just say, like, babe, it's not financially feasible for you to go to the ATM today.
You guys are awesome. So I love this. These are your rules. And so the pacts are just these rules that we're excited about keeping. But underneath, so the pacts, they create trust, because when we abide by our agreements, then there's trust. But trust only comes from another T word, truth. And another thing, these are like two books clearly on my mind, but what the language book says is that there is no relationship without truth. Because without truth, there's no real trust. And we have to get thick enough skin to be able to listen to the truth and make it safe for our partner to be truthful with us. Just tell me the truth. Where am I fucking up? Or what am I doing that's hurting you? Or what am I in that you think you wish I would change? Just give it to me. And let your partner, and say it's safe to do so. I'm not going to defend. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to get my feelings hurt. It may hurt a little, but I'm an adult. I can handle it. Just give it to me. And do that at home as an exercise. It's probably good to do that every once in a while. But again, another reason why my marriage broke down? Because we couldn't tell the truth. It wasn't safe to tell the truth. And it wasn't safe because a person couldn't handle the truth without defense, without can't go there, without walking out of the room, without I can't handle the truth. I don't want to know what you think or feel or believe. We're just going to pretend everything's okay and we can go on with the charade. But it's hard to hear the truth. It's easier to blame, like, hey, you're the problem, Tom. It's like, but, yeah.
Over here.
Tony here said a lot. So, but it's just the pact is truth. I think that's the fundamental pact, is we tell the truth.
I like what Amy Beth said, that it's like you're creating together a space where it's like a sacred construct with
Yeah.
words.
Yeah, sacred.
That's
It's like just,
really a nice
yeah,
way.
we're not going anywhere. We're just going to keep going because we're going to go to get deeper so that we can ascend. We have to go down and dig out before we can get up. But it can only be based on truth. If it's based on bullshit, or it's based on half-truths, or it's based on I can't tell you the truth because I'm afraid you're going to hurt your feeling, you're going to start bawling and crying, and now, that, and then you're going to run out of the room, we are then conditioned to not tell the truth about how we're really thinking and feeling.
Without the truth, you can't actually trust the other person, and then the pact is broken.
Without the truth, you can't really trust the other person. The pact is broken. So the question is, what are our agreements? What are our pacts? If my next relationship, what would those agreements be? What would the pact be? I mean, my next one, truth or nothing. Because I want the truth to grow, and I only want to be with somebody that can handle the truth. And not like my truth, but let's figure out the truth. But this is how I'm feeling. This is how that behavior affects me. This is what hurts me. And the truth is hard to tell because we don't want to hurt other people's feelings that we love. I mean, it's a loving act to not tell the truth, but it's actually a loving act not to tell. I mean, it's worse. Yes, thank you. So just the truth. And then finally, partnership. And so what Karen said here, which I really did like, is when we got to the purpose of marriage, how many of us in the room either have one or have been in a business partnership? So a lot of us. So what is a business partnership? Why do we get a business partner?
Defers risk.
Defers risk?
My weakness is this part, because that part.
All right, so let's just talk business. We're all, a lot of business owners in here. But so why do we get a business partner?
Increase capacity.
Increase capacity. Expertise. Divide and conquer. What's that? Expansion. Financial.
We can't do it alone. Yeah, we can't do it alone.
Knowledge. Kind of expertise, knowledge. All right. I've had a few business partners in my life. Are business partners with that business partner easy always?
No.
Oh, that was too good, girl. Yeah, there's truth, goddammit. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. But so business partnerships can be a challenge. And you have to have some truthful conversations in business partnerships, and we sit down and we partner it out. Otherwise, the partnership doesn't succeed. If you can't tell the truth in a business partnership and you can't trust your business partner, that business partnership will fail. It's based on truth. Any good partnership, that's for a successful business. So, and we choose business partners. Who's made a bad choice in a business partner? I'm not the only one? Who's made the bad choice in a business partner more than once? Okay. 3 times? No. I'm a slow learner, yeah. And we make bad choices, but we go into the business partnership for these different reasons. Now, what about a marriage partnership?
Only did that once bad.
You only did that once bad, yeah. But the marriage partnership, so here's the thing. Now, in all seriousness, who's had a really good business partner? So a lot of us have had a really good business partner. So even with the best business partner, there's the goal of making the business successful and profitable for the sake of the business partners. But are the self-interests completely aligned? Why not?
Different,
Why different directions, Steve?
they just have different desires, what they want to do.
So, Steve, you and I are business partners, and you have your life and your family, and I have my life and my family. So we have the business in common, but we actually have different direction. I mean, I'm using all my money for my life, and you're using your part of the money for your life, but they're separate. Like, I don't want my money to pay for I don't want my part of the money to pay you for your part of the family and for your values and for everything you're doing over there for your life. So that's the thing. Business partnerships, even the best business partnerships, can be very powerful for the reasons they're up on the board than trying to slog at it alone. And great business partnerships can make a lot of money and do different things. But the difference between marriage as a partnership, when we have a purpose, we have a vision, we have a plan, we have a strategy, we bring great moods, we tell the truth, we have trust, and we're a partnership like LaShawn and Robert. They're a partnership. You spend time with these two, and man. But do we have the same values we're going towards? Do we have the same concerns, the same family, the same everything? So is there any more powerful partnership in the world than a marriage that thinks of themselves as a partnership? That's power of partnership. And I don't know if you can have that if you're not married. Maybe you can. I'm sure there's always exceptions to the rule. But power partnership, for the sake of power, capacity, velocity, we're not even bringing in the romantic pieces, the love pieces, all the other things. Do you get love? You get romantic intimacy and love and all that other stuff from your business partner? Any good sex from your business partner? Yeah, you. Yeah, Michelle's got it figured out, yes, yeah. So now, I mean, we're just talking business and money and power and capacity and divide and conquer and all these things. The only reason why we get into business partners and put up with the bullshit of even a great business partner is for the excess capacity. Otherwise, you would never do it. So marriage partnership, you get all that and love and intimacy and passion and somebody that just loves you. Somebody you're going to have sex with, and I mean, the whole 9 yards. That's called a win-win. That's the purpose of, one good purpose of marriage, like the power, the passion, the profit, the purpose. But it's this, when you're in alignment. If we're a partnership, can you have a successful business partnership if you don't have a person, mission, vision of the business? And a strategy and a plan and conversation and truth and trust? It doesn't work in business. And business isn't business like a thing. Businesses are relationships. It is a relationship. And if that relationship is bad, that business partnership's not going to work out. If there's no trust, it's not going to work out. If you break your agreements all the time, it's not going to work out. If you don't give attention to the partner and spend time on all these things, it's not going to work out. It's so obvious in business. But business is just a relationship with a partnership, but that's what marriage is. Can be or not. But that's the power and the beauty of marriage is in the partnership. And the money piece of the partnership is a business. And my money piece of my last marriage was a really profitable business. It was just missing some of the other pieces. But when you're on the same page with money, health, and relationships, and spend less than you make, and invest in the marriage, invest in the return of what we both get, for the sake of the purpose, the power, the love. I mean, that's velocity. And it feels good. I mean, it feels good to succeed in business. I feel good. I like making the money. I like the zeros in the bank account. But all the success I've had in business doesn't compare to love. In the business. And we're not treating our partner as the first partnership. Our business and our career is the second partnership that only exists as fuel to serve this one.
Amen, sister.
Yes.
So finally, about power couple. And tell me if you love this. This came to me out of the blue as I was putting all this together. But power couple, leverage.
Yes. I love that word.
And that's power couple. When we're a partnership, we're in this together. I choose you and you choose me. We've got each other. We're in this for love, but I will be lovable, honorable, and cherishable to make it really easy for you to love, honor, and cherish me. And if you vow the same, I believe you, and I trust you, and we're going to be truthful. We're not going to set it and forget it. It's the same thing, like with the financial philosophy. Set it and forget it. It doesn't work. It doesn't turn out. We can't set it and forget it in our marriages. It's a practice every single day. Love is an action every single day. And if we want to feel loved, then we have to love as an action every day. And if the other person keeps their vows and they're a good person, that love's going to come back. Versus waiting for the other person to love first or to do what we think they should be doing first. Power couple leverage. Just love that.
T-shirt. I love it.
Leverage
Yes,
t-shirt?
t-shirt.
Okay, leverage t-shirt. Well, we've got it. All right, that's the 10P's. What we're gonna do now is guys and girls circles. And Jen, how much time do we want to give? Or are we lunch? I don't even know. No, we're gonna do circles first.
Sorry,
How long for guys, girls circles?
what time is it?
11:37.
Wait, is it Saturday or what?
Let's do it.